The British Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, says the UK will recognise Palestinian statehood unless there are major moves by Israel to end the situation in Gaza.
So today, as part of this process towards peace, I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September, unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza, agree to a ceasefire, and commit to a long-term sustainable peace, reviving the prospect of a two-state solution.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called the plan a reward for Hamas that would backfire on the UK, saying appeasement towards jihadist terrorists always fails and it will fail you too, referring to Sir Keir. A UN-backed initiative that tracks food security says the worst case scenario of famine is now unfolding in Gaza. Israel says 52 packages were dropped into the enclave on Tuesday in coordination with Arab countries. Sir Keir says aid from the UK was delivered by air, and the French Foreign Ministry says it will start airdropping aid in the coming days. Fawas Gerges is the Professor of International Relations at the London School of Economics and the author of The Great Betrayal, The Struggle for Freedom and Democracy in the Middle East. It is always good to have you, Fawas. I'm so grateful for that. Before we get into the situation there, I don't really understand what Sir Keir is up to with this, because when I heard it, I thought, look, surely if you're going to, if you're of a mind to recognise statehood, just go ahead and do it. Why are you going through the convolutions of tying it to something, doing something? I mean, do you see the relevance of the connection?
Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. Starmer has been reluctant to recognise a Palestinian state because he believed that unilaterally recognizing a Palestinian state would be considered performative politics, as opposed to basically making a difference. What has happened in the past few weeks is that Starmer is pressed between a rock, domestic pressure. 250 lawmakers basically wrote a letter to Starmer calling on the Prime Minister to recognize a Palestinian state. Tremendous pressure. I don't know whether you are in London or not. I mean, overwhelming pressure as a result of rising starvation and worst case scenarios and horrible images of Palestinians' children starving. And a harder place. Starmer does not really want to upset Donald Trump. Remember, the UK-US relationship is extremely strategic for Starmer. But at the end of the day, what he is trying to do is to really play for time, is try to hold the thing from the middle. But at the end of the day, what we need to understand here is that really what Starmer said today and what President Macron, the decision to recognize a Palestinian state, reflects the deepening isolation of Israel in the world. Israel has fewer and fewer friends. You're talking about, please.
What? Even Donald Trump is now, today, several times has said, this idea of there being no starvation there is simply not true. I mean, he was somewhat facetiously sort of saying, oh, yes, there's no, tell me, we're seeing the pictures. Don't tell me there's no hunger there. Why do you think Israel's doing it? It's arguably the level of unnecessary opprobrium being put on their head. Why are they doing it, in your view?
Well, I think there is a strategy behind it. I don't think we're talking, Israel is not an irrational actor. And the overarching strategy of Israel is very simple, is to basically displace the Palestinians from Gaza, is to settle Gaza, is to end the very idea of a Palestinian state. I mean, Israeli ministers have made it very clear, even today. They want to basically displace the 2.2 million Palestinians of Gaza. They want to end the whole idea of Palestinian state. I mean, they have destroyed every single habitat in Gaza. Schools, clinics, hospitals, mosques, universities. I mean, there is nothing left in Gaza. And they're making really, they're punishing the population because at the end of the day, Israeli leaders believe that if the Palestinians really had no choice, they basically would pack and leave to various countries.
I preface my next question with obviously two wrongs never make a right. Let's just get, make that clear. But the inability, let's start with the unwillingness of Hamas, and arguably now the inability. They don't know where the hostages are. They don't know, some of them, whether they're alive or dead. The inability and unwillingness of Hamas to do this, to do what President Trump has demanded. If they did, arguably, the situation would alleviate very quickly.
Look, Hamas is not my cup of tea. I'm not defending Hamas here. But Hamas has been desperately trying to reach a ceasefire. Hamas has made it very clear it's willing to have a comprehensive deal. In fact, Hamas made it very clear multiple times. It wants to basically release all the hostages for ending the war, Israel's ending the war. The question is not why Hamas has not released the hostages. The question is, Benjamin Netanyahu does not really want to end the war. Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly said he wants his hostages back, but he wants to resume the war after he gets the hostages back. So in many ways.
All right. So let me ask you then, and we're coming out of time, but I don't want to. Your thoughtful answer prompts this question: if you're Hamas, release the hostages, and prove then to the world that Israel's not going to stop the war.
I mean, you're asking a question that really has no relationship to the question of geopolitics and strategy. Hamas knows very well that what Israel wants to basically destroy Hamas. Israel wants Hamas to surrender. Israel wants to reoccupy Gaza. Israel wants to deepen its occupation of Palestinian lands. For Hamas, the only strategic card it has are the hostages, even though the hostages should not have taken place in the first place.
I'm always so grateful that we can have this forthright discussion, and thank you very much for joining us tonight. I wish you well this evening. Thank you.